president. She's identified as one of the top global thinkers of 2011 by Foreign Policy magazine. She's the cover title of Newsweek Pakistan as Pakistan's most important woman. So, Senator Sherry Rehman, are you there? For a most
I'm
important,
right here.
I know that you hold that importance very lightly. You're informal. You're very available to people, and and you share this idea that girls and women like ourselves need to come keep our feet on the earth and take our privileges and use them to speak on behalf of those who have less opportunity and less power. So I'm interested, Sherry, at this point in time in Pakistan, when you look at these themes that the WOW team chose, which of those came closest to your heart in terms of what you're seeing happening in your own country, and as a world leader, what you think that we need to care about?
Thank you, Jude, and thank you, WOW, for doing this and bringing us together. Really inspiring to hear just even your prologue right now. Yes, anger is going to lead to activism, that it always does. So this is how women channel what are known as broadcast as negative emotions into resilient and reformative action, I feel. Now, the themes you're talking about, when I heard them, they're all actually, as you said, interconnected. But what's jumping out in current experience in Pakistan, in this entire existential reset of values, lives, work, everything. And of course, we've seen the Black Lives Matter raging in the other part of the world. All of these, I think, ties into the search for justice and equity for women. And in this whole episode, as Annie Lennox so profoundly spoke about, I mean, so passionately spoke about domestic violence, none of us can walk away from that. It has reemerged as a monster, literally, with a new face, and needs that light shone on it, both in countries and communities and homes and globally. But what's obviously, we all know that women have become confined, they can't connect, and particularly of great pathos is the fact that in Pakistan, only 17 to 20% have active access to the internet, which is what is connecting us, which is where our privilege is taking us. And I'm able to draw inspiration from both your stories or Annie's message, but most of the women are not. They have very little access also to outside reporting. So what I've been working on particularly is what's been bothering me is the demographic and the data, the silent demographic and the silent epidemic, because all of this is not being reported. It's like an iceberg, which you can only see a very thin sliver at the top. What's happening, what's lying beneath is dark, it's confined, it's mixed up with shame and a slew of other social constructs imposed on women by society, and they're not reporting it. So rape and domestic violence is being reported even less. And here, just a small, the only demographic I have to hang on to, for instance, in these days when we're completely in lockdown, is that of we have a human rights ministry helpline in every area, and cumulatively, and these are not many, they get 40,000 calls a month on an average. Well, guess what that has shrunk to? Gender-based violence calls have shrunk to literally 13 calls, 1-3, as opposed to 40,000 in a month. And that 40,000 is, I would suggest you, not even 1% of the tip. Because if you say that in UK, 3 out of 5 women are experiencing domestic violence, well, here there's, and in South Asian societies, there is great impunity. You heard the rape figures for New Delhi. We may only, just because of population, be a little less. The point is, it's the hidden disappearing demographic. It's been, women have become the disappearing demographic in this pandemic. This is how we have experienced it. While some of us have remained on television, been able to access parliament and forums such as this, Most women have actually lost their voices, and I worry about reversal of important gains. Here we were trying to work on documenting the all the unpaid daycare and other work women do, just the care work women do all over the world and in Pakistan. It just goes undocumented. So I feel that's gone up. 74 million women are working in the informal sector, and they're barely documented, 52% in Pakistan, or more, 78% rather. But they have no access right now to very often their incomes, which gave them a little bit of power in their homes and their communities and ability to affect decision making. And the other peril that women are facing, other than domestic violence, is really one that's very banal, but it is of healthcare access, healthcare advice. We have one of the world's largest primary healthcare systems in the world that reaches out to women at home, and it's based on women health workers, made by Benazir Bhutto, who you may have heard of. And and the point here was these women had even become polio vaccinators. They were holding up the literally the backbone of our support system, of our healthcare system. Now, when there's a reproductive healthcare crisis or even access to water or knowledge, you tell me, how are women at the bottom of and even the middle of this pyramid struggling to even understand what they must do in a global pandemic, what social distancing means, what they must do to protect themselves and their families. So that's been a struggle. And I've literally been working on two things. One is impunity for police, where most of our rapes are reported. That's where we hinge on domestic violence. My law also used to always break at the point where you say, all right, we report it at the police station. Obviously, they're the actors. And South Asian police is notorious for actually exploiting and abusing not just women, but everyone, many people. There's high percentages in custodial lockup. So I've decided to move a bill, which has passed Senate. It's called criminalizing torture and sexual harassment in custody. Obviously, sexual and all other abuse include. So that's an uphill task, but that's getting us to the impunity problem. That's getting us to another tip of the iceberg, to the gate, if you like, where we open up more cases and where we open up more challenges. The other thing I've been working on is hand washing for women, because 54% of Pakistanis don't have access to running fresh water. We'll be water scarce in 2025. And this is a global rush affecting us. This is a big drought effect. So what we're doing is trying to set up community wash basins, if you like, where philanthropy and the state both work together to provide water. And I made a video, a sort of hand washing video at the beginning of this pyramid, of this pandemic rather, to which was broadcast very. I'm grateful it was broadcast by many television channels on their own, to teach people and women the value of simple simple hygiene provisions, and how they can actually keep them and their women and their families safe from such kind. That's the only low cost kind of tool we have, because our healthcare systems are under pressure. 70% of our healthcare workers are nurses, are the frontline workers are women. They have very little protection, and so most of us who have access to the internet, including celebrities, have gotten together to make sure that the PPE kits and all that are provided. So we're very much at a stage where we're still in a terrible lockdown, and we're not even at our peak. So Pakistan is at a trajectory when, one of the worst squeeze on women and vulnerable communities as well as minorities is in play, and we're having to pull a lot of hats out of the box, both innovation and otherwise, to reach out without transmission fears, and with COVID protocols in place and SOPs in place. So it's been a challenge, but it's certainly a time to rethink, build resilience, and reset our narratives, as you say, on what is the new normal. This can't be normal, but you're right, it's completely normalized. We're all living with that statistic, these horrible demographics.
Yeah. So, Sherry, you've painted a very expansive and illusion that somehow, if the country is full of brown people or full of black people, that somehow the impact of white people hasn't made its play. But of course, that's ridiculous because of colonialism, because of all kinds of things. So, can you talk about the impact of Black Lives Matter and what's happening in Pakistan?
Yes, actually, Jude, it's been quite. It's had an impact on the what I would say the people who are able to read, write, and watch some element of TV, which is quite a lot of Pakistan, and it's played out on television as a global spark that could actually, whether they're Black lives or not, it could lead to all indignity and mistreatment of vulnerable communities, because that's what Black Lives really is about, the constant mistreatment and discrimination and the otherization of one people based on skin or race. And while there's no caste or race stratification in Pakistan, there's a whole lot of post-colonial color filters that apply to people judging where you're from, what you can do, and what access to benefits or opportunities you have in society. For instance, there's been and BLM has become kind of a poster child for protecting the vulnerable here, and you've had even amongst the what I would say the companies that promote whitening products, for instance, and that's something that South Asian women have had to grapple with for years. It's peculiar to South Asia where you're considered a bad marriage prospect if you're my skin color. You need to be much whiter, for instance, and so stuff like that goes on. And there are Unilever, which is a big global giant, has just had to change or consider changing the product called Fair and Lovely. It's a whitening cream, which is this pigmenting cream. It's dangerous to my mind to skin and to not just physically, but every which way, has been around on the market as a bestseller, as an indication of what what filters we apply as a society to the issue of color. And that's really been it's brought these conversations front and center. There was a commercial for a whitening cream being peddled by one of the Martha Stewart's cooking sort of domestic goddesses. And I just called it out. I said, why are you peddling a whitening cream? What message are you giving the women and girls and everybody, the men of Pakistan? What are you telling us? So that was removed. And today I just heard that Unilever is considering changing the name and branding and composition of this product, which is their biggest seller apparently. And that should just tell you what kind of filters we apply when we just look at people. So Black Lives Matter has resonated very strongly in South Asia, particularly amongst women and girls who had to constantly face this kind of, oh, but you're from the South, you're not of Caucasian skin. Basically, that's what, because the North is of our country. It's like that. And so the blue, the model looks are constantly peddled and valorized as the ideal, as the prettification ideal, if you like. And that in itself has various layers of complication and injustice built into that. So that has had an impact, and people are unpacking this kind of view, calling it out, and bringing big corporate giants down to change.
And I have to say that the corporates